911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. She's not waking up.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
Do you have a defibrillator?
Yep.
Yes, you have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
11:59 a.m. 49 2nd November 13, 2022.
Lurking in the shadows made you feel powerful because no one ever paid you any attention in the light. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your fucking ass. Thank you.
Hi guys, this is Future Ben speaking to you here. I just want a quick moment of your time with regards to this week's case. We recorded this episode on June the 27th of 2025, and a few days later, as I logged on to put the various pictures into the episode, Brian Kohberger entered a guilty plea on July the 2nd, which in hindsight made us realize perhaps we should have put this episode slightly further back in our 12-week series. But this is a case we figured we could deliver up to the point of the trial and then dissect that in the aftermath. Obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and that hasn't happened. We've learned our lesson. I just wanted to let you know that in this week's episode, you will, as we recorded it on June the 27th, you will hear us refer to Brian Kohberger as the accused. And you will also hear us reference a forthcoming August trial that is obviously now no longer happening, as he's obviously been sentenced to 4 consecutive terms of life in prison. Any details that were clarified after the time that we filmed, we'll obviously make on-screen amendments for the YouTube folks. But essentially, I didn't want you guys to listen to the episode and hear us refer to him as the accused multiple times and also reference a trial that is no longer going to happen. So with that being said, here is this week's episode, the Idaho murders, and we wanted to send our love, thoughts and prayers to the family, friends and community surrounding the victims for what was, as you'll find out, or as you perhaps already know, a truly horrific and disgusting series of crimes.
Hello and welcome to Our Good Murderer podcast. We are back once again. I'm joined by, of course, he's still here. He's actually still here. Ben Carter, how you doing?
Thank you so much. No, doing really, really well, thank you. The sun is shining, the weather is sweet. It's a bit warm, so there's no socks on my feet.
Oh, stinky! Well, how you doing, producer Dan?
Very good. It is warm. It's very humid. But feeling good, feeling ready. We're episode 2 already. Second gear. The best gear, actually.
Second?
Yeah.
Is that your favourite gear,
It is my favourite gear on a bike and a car. And
there you go.
What other gears are there?
People might refer to Metal Gear Solid as gears if they're really into it. Didn't think that would come up. But yes, we are back once again with a brand new case, a huge case, a bit of a mystery in some people's eyes. Some people think it's already solved. But Ben, without any further ado, what is today's case?
So today is the case of the Idaho quadruple murders. At the time of recording, should point this out, we're recording in the end of June 2025. Very aware a trial is looming over us regarding the perpetrator in this case. At the moment, there's a working title of Did Brian Kohberger Do It? As Tom said, there is, in some people's eyes, a mystery. In other people's eyes, there is a conspiracy. In our eyes and minds, which we'll get onto at the end of the episode, I think is relatively well solved, this case, but we'll see what people think. Also known as the Idaho murders, the 2022 University of Idaho killings, the Chapin, Gonsalves, Knodel and Mogan murders, the alleged crimes of Brian Koberger, and the Idaho murders trial by TikTok.
Yes, it is a fascinating case. Yeah, it's one of those ones for me. I won't give away my feeling on it. We'll get through it and then we'll talk about it at the end. I don't want to, put anything in people's minds if they haven't heard about the case. I want them to kind of come to their own thoughts to it.
You know, like when people go fishing and the bait is out there on the line, it's in the water. Sometimes they throw an extra bit of course, ground bait, I believe the term is.
I think it's to encourage the fish. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what could you maybe throw some ground bait into the water for the audience?
Sure. I don't even know. It's a great metaphor, but I don't really know how to use it in this term. So you want me to put something in the water to get the people close to my theory?
Circling your bait.
I'm just going to put one little bit of detail out there. The phone being turned off and on. That for me is a bit weird. And the Facebook profile. But that's all I'm saying for now.
Ooh.
I hear you. Lovely bit of ground bait, that. I don't think fish make that noise.
Might do. Pop, 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 pop. During the early winter morning hours of Sunday, November 13th, 2022, whilst a good portion of his residents were sound asleep, the student city of Moscow became the unwilling setting of one of the most chilling and senseless home invasion massacres in modern American history. Inside the off-campus rented house, which showed no signs of forced entry or damage to the property, 6 young adults were sleeping as a masked perpetrator violently and meticulously swept from one room to another, leaving behind a series of shadowy bloodbaths in the process. 4 lives were ferociously taken within 25 minutes, whilst 2 other roommates slept through the attacks, completely unaware of the horrors unfolding just rooms away. The sound of a dog barking, followed by a loud thud, briefly awoke one young lady in the property who claimed to have heard a housemate whisper the chilling words,
"There's someone here."
But the damage and devastation was already done. As the young lady continued to listen out, she started to hear the sounds of whimpering and crying, followed by an unfamiliar male voice whispering,
"It's okay, I'm going to help you."
She froze in fear for a few more seconds before partially opening her bedroom door. She then stood terrified as she observed an unrecognisable, tall, slim man dressed entirely in black, who had bushy eyebrows and was wearing a mask that only seemed to cover his nose and mouth. He then walked past her and swiftly exited the home via the rear sliding glass doors as he vanished into the icy darkness.
911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something's happening in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
As the 3rd anniversary of the Idaho student murders approaches, a case so violent that it sent shockwaves across an entire nation, one man has been taken into police custody. After eerie details have emerged surrounding premeditation, prior behaviours, knowledge of the victims and a potential motive, prosecutors are now actively seeking the death penalty.
November 12th, 2022, the Sigma Chi fraternity house, 8 p.m. 20-year-old Xana Knodel and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, also 20, were attending a party at the Sigma Chi fraternity house, of which Ethan was a member. It was Saturday night and the couple didn't have a care in the world. They shared drinks with friends over the course of the next few hours before returning to Xana's student accommodation at 1122 King Road, where Ethan planned to spend the night with her. To counter this, there are numerous Reddit threads and online articles, as well as an anonymous 911 call and an episode of Dr. Phil, which promotes the theory that an altercation occurred at some point during the course of the party. Most of these theories include the suggestion that everybody present at the party that night has remained silent ever since, begging the questions, did something happen at Sigma Chi, and what are the Brotherhood trying to hide?
Yeah, so basically these articles and the online threads suggest that both Ethan and Xana got into heated situations whilst at this particular party. Some stated that there were drugs present, another stated that Xana's father basically said in an interview that his daughter had gotten into a fight or a disagreement with a male the week before the party, and he was also present at this party. So there's lots of theories online, which is a theme of this case, that there was something disagreeable that occurred at this particular party.
The Corner Club Sports Bar, 10 p.m. Whilst all of this was going on, one of Xana's housemates and work colleagues, 21-year-old Madison Mogan, was several blocks away in downtown Moscow. Madison was out having drinks with one of her best friends, 21-year-old Kaylee Gonsalves. The pair were described as inseparable. Kaylee used to live in the 1122 King Road property as well, but had recently moved out. She was visiting in order to show Madison her new car, and, like Ethan, was planning to spend the night at the house. Madison and Kaylee enjoyed their night out without any incident, or so it's believed, before eventually moving on a few hours later to go get some food and go home.
The Grub Truck, 1:41 a.m. Having left the Corner Club at around 1:30 a.m, Kaylee and Madison head 4 blocks south in order to grab some mac and cheese from a popular food truck on Friendship Square. The pair are infamously captured on the Grub Truck's Twitch livestream, where they are initially seen laughing and joking with one another before they appear to get into an argument with 2 men waiting for food behind them. Madison is heard saying, "Fuck you, mister," to one of the men, with some reports suggesting that they had followed the pair from the bar to the food truck. Kaylee and Madison then collect their food and head off camera in order to get a ride home. And their ride, back to this shared property, all these people having a different night out, they will reconvene at this house, which is just 1 mile away. And initially this ride was stated to have been provided via an Uber rideshare. However, police later adjusted this statement to say that the ride was provided via a private party. The 2 men standing behind the girls at the truck were later interviewed and subsequently cleared of any kind of involvement in what was to follow, as was a baseball cap wearing man that the pair were seen chatting with at the Corner Club. 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho, November 13th, 1:45 a.m. At around this time, Ethan and Xana made the short and very direct walk just a couple hundred yards through the snow from the Sigma Chi fraternity house back to Xana's student accommodation. They enter the property and are soon made aware that 2 of Xana's housemates are already home and in the process of going to bed. This was Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen, who slept on the 1st and 2nd floor respectively. Upstairs on the 3rd floor was Kaylee's puppy, but she and Madison would not be home for a few more minutes. Bethany and Dylan were each in their own individual rooms, Ethan and Xana were in Xana's room, and Madison and Kaylee were due to share Madison's room. With the exception of the puppy, this left 2 bedrooms empty over the 3-story property, one on the 1st and one on the 3rd floor. As the house was built on a hill, the 2nd floor was level with the ground on one side. And we'll pop a lot of images up in this particular episode to show the layout of the house, because it's, to go on to the theory I believe what happened in this case is quite an interesting layout to work around if you don't know the property and in the darkness, but we'll get to that shortly. And also on one side of the house, one of the doors was secured by a key code entry system, which apparently had been shared a fair amount over campus, with the rental property being a known party house. There are believed to have been at least 1 other person named on the lease who was not present in the property that night.
11 minutes later, 1:56 a.m. Madison and Kaylee arrived back at the house. It's speculated that they quickly took Kaylee's puppy outside to go to the toilet before going back inside and getting ready for bed. According to the 2 surviving housemates, all 6 individuals were in the 1122 King Road property by 2 a.m. at the latest. They each head to their relevant bedrooms. Some of them immediately go to bed, others stay up a little longer. Between 2:26 a.m. through to 2:52 a.m, a total of 10 phone calls are made between Madison and Kaylee's phones. These calls were all made to Kaylee's ex-boyfriend, Jack Duer, who did not answer any of them. Investigators later concluded that this individual had nothing to do with what was going to occur over the next 2 hours. Kaylee's sister would later state that it was not unusual for her to repeatedly call people until they answered, which suggests this was typical behaviour rather than due to an emergency.
3:01 a.m. Moscow Police Department received an anonymous call about a disturbance in a field outside a frat house and were immediately dispatched to the Sigma Chi house just a couple hundred yards away from 1122 King Road. Here, the police daily activity log reports that an alcohol offence is recorded. In a statement released weeks later, Moscow police noted that the incident was unrelated to the murders. 3:29 a.m. This marked the first of at least 5 and potentially up to 8 surveillance sightings of a white Hyundai Elantra circling close to the King Road property. At this time, the vehicle was spotted slowly driving down Queens Road, which is a one-way street that stems off of Kings Road. The vehicle was seen returning to the location once again a few minutes later before slowly driving off.
Yeah, I remember because we were made aware of this case very soon after it happened and people were requesting us to cover it. And I just remember this footage was shared quite early on and it's very eerie. He's there a lot, or whoever is in the car is there a lot. And it's very much like scoping out the area.
Not a very threatening car, is it, a Hyundai Elantra?
No.
I don't know what a threatening car would be.
I was immediately trying to think of that, yeah.
Jeep
Just
Wrangler.
went straight to the film Cars.
Yeah, maybe. Something with sharp edges.
The Batmobile, maybe.
Yeah, but then he's here.
That would scare the shit out of me at 4 a.m.
Maybe something from, what's the one with the end of the world and Mighty Max? Not Mighty Max.
Mad
Max. Yeah.
Mad Max, yeah.
Mad Max.
The villain in Cars is doesn't look that threatening at all.
Okay, well, we got that covered. Back to the case.
He actually looks quite chill.
Sorry?
He actually looks quite chill.
Oh, well, you never
Villain
know.
in Cars.
Maybe he's taken some substances and shouldn't be driving, and that's actually really dangerous in itself. So I'd like you to stop there.
Touche.
4 a.m, perhaps whilst the white Hyundai Elantra was still circling or parked up by the house, a DoorDash order to Xana is delivered to the house from Jack in the Box. The order was taken inside and opened, with later evidence photos showing the Jack in the Box bag with Xana's name on it inside the house.
Yeah, so there's this image is quite. It shows like a I think it's a plant pot knocked over next to it, but the Jack in the Box bag is there next to it. I can't tell if obviously because there's speculation as to whether the individual involved in this case had ordered the food to the door. Why were they still awake at this time, and then to have gone to sleep so quickly after then? Well, basically in 9 minutes' time, this intruder will enter the house. So how can they have had food at this time and then been asleep when the perpetrator allegedly was there? So it's an interesting part of the case, but yeah, there's a very infamous photo of the Jack in the Box bag inside. There's also an entire Reddit thread suggesting that the order was made via a third party using an anonymous $50 gift card and giving them Xana's name, and that the girls actually had nothing to do with the order. A news article from as recently as the day before we're filming, June 26th, 2025, states that a female DoorDash driver claims that when the order was delivered, she parked next to someone who was in a white car.
Wow. And Dan's just WhatsApped me, so I will answer the question, Dan. I don't know why you're so shy about it. Jack in the Box, it's basically kind of fast food. A lot of curly fries from the menu, from what I can see. They do a supreme breakfast bun, which is in the croissant.
Oh.
Egg, bacon, and American cheese. Lots of burgers, Dan.
Are they like another option for, like, if you don't want McDonald's, you don't want Burger King, you go there? Or are they above that in the ranking? Is it?
I don't know. From the branding, I think they're probably in the same realm. A lot of those kind of more like KFC, you get things in a little box with like a lot of different things in.
Box meals.
I could even see a rogue taco there. And the Jack in the Box figurine is kind of a bit like a Pinocchio mixed with a snowman.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
No worries. I think people need to know that. And also, obviously, American listeners, or if Jack in the Box is anywhere else, let me know if it's higher ranking than Burger King or McDonald's. We do need to know these things. It is important to us as a brand.
I haven't had a curly fry in years.
Oh, I have, boy.
Dear.
They are, for me, better than regular
Really?
fries. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How often do you have a curly fry?
I'd say once a week.
Damn.
You used to call them a random fry, didn't you, Banks?
Random.
Zany.
You can also get Ziggy or Ziggly fries.
Ziggly fries?
Yeah, I think they've got Ziggy fries. I think it's a...
Ziggy fries! Ziggy.
I think they've got like rosemary and pepper on them. Lovely.
Damn,
Just a
that's
bit
good.
of a wiggly shape. Yeah. Very nice. I'm a fan of a fry. Big fan of a fry.
What's your
so,
kind of
yeah,
best
hit me up.
fry? Let us know in the comments below.
Waffle fries are up there.
I like the guy from Futurama.
Oh, fuck off, mate. Anyway.
Good. Very good.
Back to the case. 4 minutes later, at 4:04 a.m, the white Hyundai Elantra is spotted on surveillance for a third time, appearing to be trying to park on Kings Road, just yards from the house.
At approximately 4:09 a.m, the accused is believed to have broken into the property via the second floor rear sliding doors into the kitchen. It is unclear if, at this point, any of the lights were on inside the house, or if any of the 6 individuals inside the property were still awake, which is again why we kind of harped on about that DoorDash delivery being, 9 minutes prior to this. You'd expect maybe, drunken night out, takeaway, quick burger and chips, it could be done. I'm not completely ruling it out, but that is quick. That is quick. The accused then began to search through the property, checking if people were present in various rooms of the 3-story house. Again, if you're not familiar with the house itself, the layout is very untypical. A great number of the floors are hard surfaces, wooden surfaces, presumably louder than a carpet, and the hallways and stairways are very narrow and also wooden. And obviously you have to get to each, there are obviously 2 bedrooms on each of the 3 floors. You have to go up a very narrow staircase. I've got an interactive map, which I'll share later. But yeah, if you don't know the property, it's a hard one to sneak about in and not wake people up is kind of the point I'm trying to make.
I wouldn't even presume that it's louder than carpet, because wooden floors are louder than carpet.
Yeah.
So.
Especially a shaggy one.
Ben, maybe you could make the house on Sims.
Yeah.
Oh, you could? Can you
No,
go?
you particularly, you could maybe...
Is it? Can you go more than 2 stories now on Sims? Like 20 years ago, you were limited.
Well,
so many questions.
You used to always take away the
steps
down the pool and just watch them go, didn't you?
Why do you need 6 ovens in such a small room? We like to cook. Yeah. So yeah, basically, it's a very intricate, if you don't know the property, very intricate property. The accused then heads to the 3rd floor, possibly waking up the puppy in the process, before entering the bedroom being shared by Madison and Kaylee. He then proceeds to stab both young women multiple times in the chest and neck with a large fixed blade knife, which is consistent with the US Navy K-bar combat knife, whilst they slept. Neither Kaylee or Madison were bound or gagged during the attack, and each succumbed to their wounds. Though the attack was relatively quiet, enough disturbance was made for Dylan Mortensen, who was sleeping in the room directly below, to wake up and check outside her door. She didn't see anything unusual and assumed that Kaylee was simply playing with her puppy upstairs, so she went back to bed.
Yeah, so Dylan even, I think she thought that the guys, obviously they'd been on a night out, it was late, in her mind they just, got a food order, she probably could smell the Jack in the Box as well. She was telling them to be quiet because she thought they were kind of mucking around with the puppy and, and she was trying to sleep, so she actually I think she texted one of them saying, guys, keep it down. So she had no idea at all what was going on.
At 4:12 a.m., less than a minute after the accused had murdered both Kaylee and Madison, a forensic download of Xana Knodl's phone would show that she was on the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. Within seconds, the masked intruder was now in her room as he attacked Xana and her boyfriend, Ethan. It is possible that the attacker may not have expected another male to be in the property at the time of the murders. The accused then proceeded to repeatedly stab both Ethan and Xana in the chest and neck, with each of them sustaining multiple defense wounds to their hands, indicating that they were possibly both awakened by the man entering the bedroom. At no point was any loud screaming or banging overheard. However, as Dan mentioned at the start of the episode, Dylan claimed to hear the words, which is so eerie, "There's someone here," as well as hearing, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." According to a later coroner's report, Xana Knodl's wounds suggested that she repeatedly grabbed the attacker's knife so much so she sustained deep cuts to her fingers and that her fingers were nearly severed. Like Madison and Kaylee, neither Xana or Ethan were bound or gagged, and none of the 4 victims showed any sign of sexual assault.
4:17 a.m. Security cameras located just 50 feet from the house recorded the sound of whimpering, followed by a loud thud, and sounds of a dog barking repeatedly. The accused is believed to have left the property via the glass sliding doors at 4:18 a.m, having been seen fleeing the property by Dylan Mortensen, meaning that the massacre only took 9 minutes. Xana was found deceased on the floor of her bedroom, which may have been consistent with the thud sound that was heard. At 4:20 a.m, the 4th and final local sighting of the white Hyundai Elantra was made by security cameras, this time showing the suspect fleeing both King Street and Queen Street at a very high rate of speed. It's worth noting that during the last 2 hours of the timeline we've just covered, Brian Koberger, the accused, had his phone switched off. His last recorded network connection was recorded at 2:47 a.m. in the neighbouring city of Pullman, Washington, showing that he'd just left his apartment building, before reconnecting almost exactly 2 hours later at 4:48 a.m, this time on Highway 95, not far from Blaine County, Idaho. Each of these locations are within just a few miles of the 1122 King Road property.
a lot has happened obviously early on in this case. There's lots of moving parts, but the one part that is very prominent is the fact that, as Tom said, Dylan thought there was a commotion upstairs because the pair were, messing around with the puppy. She's then opened her door for a second time and seen a masked, unrecognizable intruder walking directly towards her in the dark before then moving out through the rear glass sliding doors, and just how horrifying that must have been for her, as well as hearing there's someone here and it's okay, I'm going to help you, in an unfamiliar voice. Terrifying.
Yeah. And so for anyone who's thinking that they obviously have the dog on the property, like, was that not a deterrent? The breed was a golden doodle, and it was named Murphy. But a golden doodle, I mean, I don't know what the breed is in terms of what that looks like, but I imagine it's a very, very small dog. So it's probably got a small dog bark.
But it's also, shut away in the top floor. It's, it's not actively roaming.
They are adorable.
I mean, golden doodle was a big clue.
Yeah, a very sweet looking dog. But terrifying, the idea of being so calm and kind of be a bit angry about your housemate's been annoying, open the door and seeing that, and then just being frozen in fear, and even the fact that the intruder doesn't react and just walks past is interesting.
Yeah, we'll pick that apart shortly. That's good point.
Between 4:22 and 4:25 a.m, both Dylan Mortensen and Bethan Funk are noted to be awake and actively communicating with one another, as they believe that the killer is still present in the house. They locked themselves in their rooms and sent the following message to one another, clearly in fear of their own lives. During the 9-minute massacre, 20-year-old Ethan Chapin, 20-year-old Xana Knodel, 21-year-old Kaylee Gonzalez, and 20-year-old Madison Mogan were all stabbed to death. Dylan Mortensen and Bethan Funk both survived, fortunately not coming into contact with the accused. There have been many comparisons between these murders and the 1978 Chi Omega murders in Tallahassee, Florida, committed by Ted Bundy. He violently bludgeoned and strangled 4 women as they slept, killing 2 of them before fleeing into the night when a boyfriend dropped off a student nurse at the property. He did all of this, having followed the women to their sorority after seeing them and staring at them and making them feel uncomfortable in a nightclub the night before. He attacked another woman after he fled the property, and she also survived.
But that scene itself is terrifying, especially in modern times. When news of this case broke, it was just, I don't want to say unheard of, because that's probably an ignorant comment, but cases like this feel very few and far between in terms of just how brash it was. And that comparison to Bundy, we'll get onto the accused's infatuation with Bundy shortly, but horrific scene.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously we're going to dissect a bit more later on, but I'm just surprised by the lack of noise created in this whole thing. But yeah, we'll get into that later. At 9 a.m, 5 hours after the murder, Brian Koberger, the accused, is evidenced to have returned to 1122 King Road. This was evidenced via a ping on the cell phone tower local to the property. It would later be revealed to have pinged at this exact location an additional 12 times from June 2022 through to the night of the murders, with a grand total of 23 pings. It was a big golf bag. With a grand total of 23 pings at or very near the crime scene before the end of the week, according to AT&T data. Almost all of these visits were made, and how chilling is this, during the very early hours of the morning or during the late evening, which is consistent with stalking hours. He also took a selfie at 10:31 a.m. that morning, November 13th, 11:55 a.m, 7 hours after the murders. Having spent the rest of the morning locked in their rooms, apparently still frozen in a state of shock, Dylan and Bethany contact their friends before contacting 911, as they believed that Xana was still alive and simply unconscious and not waking up. Numerous friends, who have not since been named, then entered the property before a call was finally made by one of them to 911.
Yeah, so this is a huge part in the case itself. I mean, there's many huge parts, but yeah, so there's lots of criticism online about Dylan and Bethany not calling 911 immediately. There's speculation and theories that the reason there was so much time is that the house was actually cleaned and drugs were removed from the property so that other charges weren't present. Obviously, Dylan had seen a masked intruder and heard a commotion. Maybe she wasn't completely aware what the specifics of what had happened, but I don't know. I think if you're in a state of shock, no one knows how long you're going to be in that state for, and if you presume that there's someone still in the house, I don't know. It is unusual that it's taken so long for 911 to be called.
I think if you're seeing an intruder in your house, yeah, I find it very, very odd. Like, you're not calling 911 immediately.
7 hours is a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to have all that other communication going on in there, I do understand the criticisms.
And the 911 call, which does go on for quite a while, is very confusing. It's they pass the phone around between friends. It's not a clear kind of one thing saying to the person on the phone. The call operator is notably getting annoyed with the fact that they're passing the phone around. It's like, stop passing it around, tell me what's happened. And from the way that they're saying it, as if they haven't actually checked or seen what's happened to the victims, they're just saying it as if they're not responding.
Yeah.
And the fact of how violent the attacks were, it is very odd. I know one of the parents later on would go on to say, it just goes to show like how confused everyone was and how innocent they were because of the lack of information they're able to give. But I don't know, if it feels a little bit odd.
911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the White, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What's your phone number?
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah.
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, but we gotta go check.
The other thing is multiple friends came to the property before police did, which again is, in any other case, it would be quite suspicious. But
John Bonet.
Yes. So there's lots of other people now at the scene, lots of other foreign DNA being spread everywhere. November 13th, evening. As news started to spread across campus and police rushed to the scene, all university lessons and lectures were cancelled for the following day. In the meantime, local police immediately cordoned off the house in a bid to try and preserve the scene. All 4 victims were pronounced dead as soon as emergency services were able to get to the property. Blood soaked the beds, walls, and floors of the bedrooms, with some blood even visibly spilling out from the external walls of Xana's bedroom. And yeah, there's a photo of this, and it's the outside of the house. One of the walls, you can see blood dripping from the room. It's a terrifying, disturbing image. They discovered the front door of the residence completely ajar, with no indications of forced entry or any internal damage, and everything still seemed to be intact. As well as this, Kaylee's puppy was located safe and sound on the 3rd floor. Investigators collected 3 male DNA samples that remained unidentified from the crime scene, which included DNA that was discovered on a tan leather knife sheath found on Madison's bed. This particular knife sheath would have housed a knife consistent with the injuries, and it also matched a 7-inch K-bar knife and sheath, the exact match that Brian Koberger purchased 8 months before on Amazon. They also found a foreign shoe print consistent with a Vans slip-on trainer directly outside of Dylan's bedroom. And yeah, as I said earlier, I found this website, which basically is a virtual tour of the house, and it comes with each room that you click in, you can view it in daytime, nighttime. It comes with crime scene descriptions, photos taken at the scene, and testimony taken from the affidavit. And it also includes, once you go into Dylan's room, a nighttime generated view of what Dylan would have seen through the door being partially opened, and it is fucking terrifying. And this is, to me, why, again, I believe the perpetrator was very familiar with this house, because it's so, once you get in there, we'll put the link in our Facebook group. It's so bizarre to navigate when you start clicking around. Like, you typically, maybe it could be a British American thing, I'm not sure, but you'd expect different rooms to be in different places. He entered into like a kitchen, diner, living room space, which is a very open plan area, and it's not immediately clear where there would be bedrooms and where there wouldn't be bedrooms, but he obviously knew. But yeah, this virtual tour really brings the case to life for me, and it is... The nighttime view is terrifying because there's not a great number of windows into the property, there's not a lot of natural light, and how he managed to do this without making a noise as well, as Tom said, the lack of noise in this case is very bizarre. Moscow Police Captain Roger Lanier recalled the impact this particular crime scene had on his relatively inexperienced team, making the following statement.
It became fairly apparent when I got to the scene that we were going to need resources outside of just what the Moscow Police Department could provide. It was a very, very sombre scene. It was incredibly hard for the community, but it was also really hard on our officers, some of whom were very young, and that was their first real major crime scene that they had encountered. It's fair to say that they had never seen anything quite like this. Some found it to be traumatic, but once they got over the shock, they just kind of fell into a role that was all hands on deck. That was an all hands on deck moment, so emotionally, it was a very, very draining day.
November 16th, 3 days after the murders, despite local police initially stating that there was no active threat to the community, which is a very quick statement to make considering you have no suspect, Moscow Police Chief James Fry publicly stated, "We cannot say that there is no threat to the community. This was the first murder to occur in Moscow, Idaho in 7 years, and the community was devastated by both the scale and senselessness of the crime." 2 days after this, Brian Koberger would change the state of which his vehicle was registered to from Pennsylvania to Washington. So basically Pennsylvania, where his family are, he's actually moved it to the state in which the crime happened.
Very bizarre. I can only think you register a vehicle to the state for insurance purposes. Is there anything I can think the reason why you'd do that? But yeah, that's very, very odd.
Or the state next to where the crime happened before YouTube or Reddit get me. I can hear the distant sirens.
Dox him.
Yeah. Okay, well.
When you hear the dogs barking, you're close.
November 19th. With no immediate suspect determined, Moscow police turned to local tips to aid their investigation. Throughout the multiple appeals that they would make, the case would eventually generate more than 19,000 public tips. However, only 2 of them were known to have come from the fraternity house, with a student population of almost 12,000. Within the first few days, surveillance handed over by neighbours leads the police to study the movements of the white Hyundai Elantra. In total, nearly 130 law enforcement officers from the 3 different agencies collaborated on the case, as well as the FBI.
So yeah, there's a lot of other speculation and criticism online about the student house, the fraternity house in which Ethan was a member, and that, well, people that believe in Koberger's innocence are very much, they're covering something up, or the Brotherhood have sworn to secrecy and there's someone in this house. But I just think, even if you're pissed off with someone or you don't like another student, I think to do what's happened in this case is a huge escalation.
Yeah, you'd maybe do a prank on that. You'd leave a fish behind a radiator or something.
Yes, swirly, give him a swirly.
That's a bit, I wouldn't do that.
That's an escalation, of course.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
No.
But, and then again, you can just say, you can ask me a question on the podcast. You don't have to keep WhatsApping me. It's getting a bit annoying now. So Elantra you're wondering where that word come from. Basically, you're saying, why is it called that? It's a bit of a funny word, Tom. I was like, all right, Dan, we're trying to record a podcast. But it's derived from a combination of the words L, meaning sophisticated, and tantra, meaning vehicle. So it's a sophisticated vehicle.
Wow.
Oh,
brilliant.
Tantra.
Makes sense.
Wasn't that sex?
Tantra sex.
It's sophisticated sex. Just wearing a bow tie and bumming.
I bet that's been done. That has to have been done at some point in history.
Yeah. I'm sure it is.
Anyway, November 23rd. 10 days after the murders, police reveal in a press conference that they were investigating the public tip-off that Kaylee Gonsalves had a potential stalker. Apparently, dozens of locals, including a local store manager, claim that Kaylee had informed them that she was being chased, stalked, and followed by a tall, slender man. Though it got a great deal of press and online attention, at the time, it is unclear if this was ever linked to Brian Koberger, but it may be explored in the forthcoming trial.
Apparently when the police went to Brian Koberger's house, knocked on the door, and the parents answered, they go, "Hey, this is Koberger, home of the Koberger, how may I help you?" You have to know Good Burger King and Cow together.
Definitely keep that in.
This is Co-Burger, home of the Co-Burger. How may we help you?
Doubled down on it.
Yeah, because I didn't deliver it as well, so I was hoping Bonzi gets rid of the first one. You can keep the bad silence afterwards. Didn't nail the pronunciation.
This case as well, I find, and again, perhaps this will be cleared up in the trial in a couple of months' time, but he is at different stages linked to many different residents of this house and, multiple victims that he's claimed. He's linked to Kaylee now, potentially being Kaylee's stalker. There's a big number of links to Madison, and there's also huge links saying that maybe Xana was the main target. So I think that will be probably well clarified in the trial. But although it's said that Kaylee's the one being stalked, there are Instagram messages which we'll talk about that suggest it might have been Madison. Then people are stating that, well, if he was only going there to kill one person, it would have been his final victim that was his main victim for him to then have stopped. Obviously, he might have just become exhausted due to the ferocity of the murders, but that would have been Xana.
Or being freaked out by Ethan being there, like you said, kind of the Ted Bundy link there being like unexpected.
That's true,
I think there may be other males in there as well that might, Yeah, it's very, very peculiar. Yeah, and I'm going to save what I want to say till the end. Because I don't want to influence people, but I mean, we're not really offering any alternatives currently in terms of who else it could be. But, I mean, I think, it is, I can't really see how people are saying otherwise, but we'll go into that at the end.
Yeah, he has a big following, a great deal of support, which just bewilders me. There's a lot of people believing he did not do this, which is, I'm sure some of you will be watching this, and I just don't see your side.
And sorry. Ben thinks you're an idiot.
Yeah,
Ben, stop messing me during the thing. Don't call them that. Come on, you're better than that.
Sorry.
It's too early for a C-bomb.
November 29th. Still without a suspect, amongst the many thousands of tips they were receiving, interest in the case gained huge traction amongst many different online communities and platforms. One theory that immediately started to generate a great deal of plausibility and spread like wildfire online was the strange abandoned red Mustang. This is when someone shared a drive-by photo of Moscow police appearing to forensically search a red Mustang not far from the house. Moscow police later ruled out the theory, claimed it was related to a different case. November 30th. The following day, a candlelit vigil was held for the victims at Kibbe Dome, having been postponed and moved inside due to poor weather conditions. Family members and many hundreds of friends of the deceased were in attendance, whilst police continued to actively monitor the area for white Hyundai Elantras.
December 2nd, after a huge increase in internet speculation and the drastic rise of misinformation being shared by online sleuths, TikTokers, social media users, as well as self-proclaimed psychics, Captain Roger Lanier of Moscow Police Department made the following statement.
There is speculation, without factual backing, stoking community fears and spreading false facts. Tracking down rumours and quelling rumours about specific information and specific events that may have not happened is a huge distraction. We are not releasing specific details as we do not want to compromise the investigation. Any people harassing or threatening those potentially involved with the case could face criminal charges.
So as I laid the bait early on, what do you call it? What bait did you say it was, Ben?
Ground bait.
Ground bait.
It might not even be the right term. I've only been fishing a few times.
I mean, ground as well. Just going in the water. But,
I'm sure my granddad always used to, you cast off, let it there, and you just throw a little bit of, could very easily be wrong.
Okay, well, I'm going to say ground bait, but that was Ben's phrase and not mine. So if you're a fisherman and you're angry, I mean, Dan's wearing a fisherman's hat.
Yeah, it looks all right.
Brown,
okay, cool. Yeah,
brown ground bait for fishing is high quality versatile attractant designed to entice fish.
There you go. So one of the documentaries I watched on this case really focused on the sleuths. I think we all think sleuths can be very useful in cases. There's certain cases which wouldn't have been solved without them, or would have been solved a lot later down the line if it hadn't been for them. There was one Facebook group in particular that were focusing on this documentary and people talking in there, and there was a certain person in there who had a lot to say, and the name was Papa Roger. We'll pop a little picture up of the display picture now.
Oh yeah.
So this guy, Papa Roger, would be talking a lot in the groups. He'd be kind of questioning a lot of the theories, why they're fixating on this Hyundai was one thing he kept pushing. Constantly talking in those groups, constantly chatting away. Who'd go on to make his own group called anything goes about the case. The Idaho Murders Anything Goes, where you could talk about anything, because I think a lot of people were getting annoyed by how often he was chiming in and his theories and what he was saying, which was interesting. And yeah, it's basically been speculated they believe that to be Brian Koberger. The picture of Papa Roger as well, it is a Russian soldier, but it looks a lot like Brian Koberger. I think that's a coincidence. People believe the reason why he went with the name Papa Roger was Elliot Roger, and the incel community, and Papa Roger being kind of like linking himself to Elliot Roger. And basically the thing that, you know, everyone was like, oh, could this really be the guy? Like, as soon as Koberger would go on to be detained, spoiler alert, that account became inactive. So you would have thought someone who had a lot of things to say on the case would have a lot of things to say on who has been detained. So very curious. And, you know, this links to like a lot of the cases we've done before, where people like to revel in the chaos and see people talking about it, keep it going and keep the kind of hype around the case going because it's all around them. I find it very, that kind of thing, especially when you put like social media into the modern cases. I always find it really fascinating how, you know, back in the day, that I could imagine someone like Ted Bundy probably would have done similar back in the day if they had these cases going on, going into chat rooms talking about it.
He definitely would have.
So yeah, it's fascinating. I just find that picture looks eerily similar to him as well. But the fact that it went offline basically as soon as it was detained is very, very interesting.
Well, this is it as well, because it's a small town, student sort of sleepy town. Last murder was 7 years ago. They didn't have the resources to investigate a scene like this, so obviously called in a lot of help. And immediately it became, like we saw in the Gabby Petito case, there was just, everyone was tweeting about it, everyone was TikToking about it, it was all over YouTube. I imagine the accused would have been kind of thriving in that sort of atmosphere, and I'm sure there'll be some of them watching. I imagine that a lot of the incels came out of the woodwork about this particular case and were kind of reveling in it, which is disgusting 100%. In itself. But this scene that we've described, do you think he planned to have got away, if the alleged planned to have not been caught?
I think so.
Because Bundy, that night, that Sigma Chi, the Bundy one, like, he was astounded. He would later say he couldn't believe he basically expected to go straight back to prison after that. Couldn't believe he got away with it. It was such a heinous scene.
Yeah, I think by all the things he's doing, and we'll get into it when the police are actually following him and what he's doing in that stage as well, because he is doing things in order to stay.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I think he's just reveling in what he's done.
Yeah.
Or what we believe him to have done.
He's alleged to have done. Yeah.
December 15th, Moscow police publicly announced that they were reviewing the records of around 22,000 fifth-generation Hyundai Elantras produced between 2011 and 2013. That sounds like a long week.
Yeah.
Over the course of the following week, investigators in the nearby town of Pullman, Washington, a college community next to Moscow, started an inquiry into a white Elantra that was owned by a 28-year-old PhD in criminology candidate and teaching assistant named Brian Christopher Koberger, who had, at the time, driven the vehicle home to the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania for the holidays alongside his father. Brian Koberger's Elantra was a newer model than what was initially described by the police. Additionally, he was stopped twice by Indiana State Police within a nearly 5-mile stretch of road on the Interstate 70 for tailgating or following too closely, which feels like a very, like minor things for being pulled over. Some people have speculated whether the police already had their suspicions here and kind of just checking in and seeing the behaviour. There is body cam photos of Brian and his dad being pulled over, with Brian seemingly giving a death stare to the officer.
Yeah, that photo is eerie. He's sort of leaning around his dad and just going.
Yeah, I mean, there's a body cam footage of him being stopped a while before by police for how he acted in an interstate or how he turned or something like that, and he's really questioning the police woman. He had a bit of a reputation as a teaching assistant, being very harsh marker, and being very like mansplainy and very patronising to women. Which, you know, we tie into the whole kind of incel thought as well, him hating women and feeling rejected. So he was known to go to bars and like kind of try and be very kind of creepy with trying to talk to women and asking very personal questions. And when they would reject him, he would call them obscenities as well. So yeah, all in all very much linking to kind of he was trying and being rejected by women, and you know that could have harboured a deeper hatred perhaps. But yeah, the clip of him talking to the policewoman he's basically saying, "Oh, in Pennsylvania, that's not a thing." And she's like, "Okay, well, it is in Washington." And he doesn't take the social cues of when to drop it, because she said she's just going to give him a warning. She's like, I should give you a ticket, but I'm just going to give you a warning. But he still pushes it, going, "Well, what should I have done then?" Or like, that's not a thing. And he doesn't know when to stop, which is quite an interesting thing to view with all things considered.
Yeah, you wonder if he would act the same way with a male officer.
Yeah, definitely.
You're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go, because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting, and then it turns, and then you're blocking, so.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn. Mm-hmm. So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through. Oh. Did you see that?
No. Mm-mm.
I feel like right before I made the turn, there was someone who made a right. They didn't have their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go, so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up. And not...
I don't know if there's a best thing to do in that situation, because you're either going to back up into somebody or you're going to run a red light.
December 19th, just a month after the Idaho murders, Brian Kohberger, the accused, was fired from his role as a teaching assistant at Washington State University. This was apparently due to behavioural problems and a sexist attitude towards women, of which he was facing disciplinary charges for. He had only been in the role for 4 months as part of a postgraduate programme, with his professor writing, "It is apparent that you have not made progress regarding your professionalism in his performance management assessment." Apparently 2 weeks before the murders, a number of different faculty members met with him to discuss growing concerns about his behaviour, poor attitude and conduct, receiving several complaints from both students and peers. Could this have enraged Kohberger? Either way, at a similar time, it is alleged that Brian Kohberger was following all 3 of his female victims on Instagram via a now deleted account, and had repeatedly sent messages to one victim, speculated to have been Maddie, who completely ignored him. Could this also have enraged him? A lot of people who have asserted their belief that whoever killed the 4 victims may have just been looking for one of them, killing the other 3, 2 of whom were there by chance, in order to get the main target he had in mind. This theory would lean into the belief that the last person murdered was his main target, like Ben mentioned earlier, likely Madison, whom he wanted to get revenge for rejecting him.
This now deleted Instagram account apparently followed all of them, and because they didn't follow him back, the messages went to that requests folder where you don't always see them. 2 or 3 of the victims had apparently just completely just not read them, not replied. And the theory is that Madison or Xana had read them, and it showed that it had been read but didn't reply. And either way, this enraged him. And he also may not have expected Kaylee or Ethan to have been in the house that night. But then there are also claims that he was stalking Kaylee. So it's all. I think this will be hopefully made a lot clearer in the forthcoming trial. December 30th, so going back to that knife sheath that was apparently covered in DNA that we mentioned earlier, as well as the tracking of the white Hyundai Elantra, authorities allegedly identified a partial DNA match to someone related to Brian Kohberger through a public genealogy database. Yeah, we've never seen a bad thing about the PBD, whatever it is.
Yeah, there's definitely a good database to be using. I'm always surprised by the amount of people that obviously have used it as well.
Yeah, PGD or PDB. Either way, big up. Investigators collected rubbish from outside the Kohberger family home in Pennsylvania to use for DNA analysis, which they claimed completely matched the DNA that was found on the leather sheath.
So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, when me and Ben were discussing if he wanted to be found or not, there's footage and there's photos of Brian taking the rubbish out with gloves on and handling everything with gloves and things which you just wouldn't normally do. So I think the police actually worked with the bin, we call them bin men here, but over there probably
trash guys,
trash people. Which
yes,
worked with them in order
criticism.
It does sound like I'm, but we worked with them in order to obtain the evidence here. But yeah, I think him wearing gloves and stuff is very, again, adds to the why is he wearing gloves? Odd behaviour.
Yeah, I mean, he'll obviously argue, oh, it's icky,
Icky
I don't want to get messy hands. But yeah, why are you putting rubbish out at 4 a.m.? Very odd. But yeah, this knife sheath. So apparently, as well as this DNA match to the knife sheath, Brian also searched on Amazon for a K-bar knife sheath. Just the sheath, not the knife. As if he was looking for a replacement. So maybe he had lost his knife sheath. In the meantime, police continued to monitor his movements and behaviors as they prepared for his arrest. So yeah, like Tom said, I think they knew this was their person, and they just wanted to see what would happen over the coming days. What we're now, 6 weeks after the murders, so they're still now monitoring him. It would later be leaked to the press that both of Brian's older sisters, quote, secretly checked his car, believing that their brother may have had something to do with the murders. Brian was spotted several times, as Tom said, wearing surgical gloves both inside and outside his parents' house. Again, I wonder if, most of these were late at night, early morning, but I wonder if his parents ever saw this. He was also seen placing large trash bags into his neighbour's rubbish bin rather than his parents' house, and he did this at 4 a.m. The contents of these bags were subsequently sent to the Idaho State Lab for further analysis, the contents of which still haven't been publicly revealed, but it is believed to have contained the clothes he was wearing during the night of the murder, or allegedly wearing. Officials also reported that Brian Kohberger, the accused, had meticulously cleaned only the inside of his vehicle, and their observation was leaving absolutely no area untouched. The FBI, together with local authorities and a SWAT team, decided to make their move and arrest him. When he was arrested, authorities discovered Brian Kohberger in the kitchen of his parents' house, wearing a shirt and shorts and surgical gloves. He was apprehended whilst seemingly sorting rubbish into small individual Ziploc bags. Don't like that. Don't like that. Don't like that.
Very weird. Dexter vibes.
That is big Dexter vibes. Following his arrest, a search of the home uncovered a knife, a handgun, and a black face mask, along with numerous different identification cards tucked inside a glove within a box. His parents, who seemed entirely oblivious to the situation, were informed that their 28-year-old son now faced charges of 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. That's mad, isn't it, the little Ziploc baggies?
His dad, I've only really seen his dad on the police cam, and he looks like the most normal, quite a nice guy. I do believe that they are oblivious. I think they probably just think he's got a lot of eccentricities and he's a quirky burger. But yeah, it's not. Yeah, very, very odd.
I would, if there are people watching or listening now that do believe, someone else was responsible, or that Brian is not responsible, I would love to know your opinions on that particular scene of his arrest. What was he doing with the Ziploc bags? Has this story been fabricated, and was it not actually the scene when he was arrested? What are your thoughts there? Because that is very sus in my book. And they obviously haven't released what was in those. They may have, blood-soaked clothing of his that match the DNA of the victims, and they haven't released that yet. He's facing the death penalty. It's highly likely they have something.
For sure.
No, it's good. Thank you.
Perhaps. I'm not sure about that.
Should I?
You can pick your own adventure.
It would later be revealed that Brian Kohberger was also briefly a person of interest for another eerily similar home invasion, which occurred in a residence not far from the University of Idaho a year before the student murders. One young lady was home at the time and was fortunately able to fend off her masked attacker before calling the police. The case remains unsolved, and Kohberger was later cleared of any involvement. The woman recalled the following chilling details.
I heard my door open and I looked over and someone was wearing a ski mask and had a knife. So I kicked their stomach and started screaming super loud, and they flew back into my closet, and then I ran out my door and up the steps away from the house.
Obviously eerily similar to the outfit and the weapon, obviously. That's what happened that night, so yeah.
Yeah, that is home invasions. We've talked about lots of different cases over the years, but home invasions are, for me, amongst the most terrifying form of crime people can commit. Just that idea that he'd been watching, waiting,
in the
commiserating.
Shadows. Oh. I've been watching, I've been waiting.
Did blink.
In the shadows. Yeah, you did blink. Two different.
Sorry. But yeah, the whole descriptions of these activities are terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And these poor victims, and so many cases like this are still unsolved. Yeah, horrifying.
I think it's the invasion of privacy, isn't it? The thought people, don't like it.
Yeah. January 3rd, 4th, and 5th of 2023. Over the course of these days, Brian Kohberger was initially detained without bond before being extradited and flown from Pennsylvania to Idaho. He was then driven to the Latter County Jail in Moscow and held without bail. Shortly after this, he made his first of a series of courthouse appearances, standing silent the entire time. On May the 17th of 2023, which was 6 months after the murders, Brian Kohberger chose not to plead during his arraignment, and his lawyer stated to the court that the defendant was standing silent regarding the 5 charges. The judge officially entered a not guilty plea on his behalf as a result.
By the way, why does the judge do a not guilty?
In the US legal system, a judge will enter a not guilty plea on behalf of a defendant when the defendant either stands mute, in brackets, refuses to plead, or is unable to enter a plea due to legal reasons, such as mental incompetence.
Right.
This is because the presumption of innocence is a fundamental principle, and the court must ensure the defendant has the opportunity to defend themselves against the charges.
Makes perfect sense now.
Yeah, so you could argue he's stood silent for that exact reason, or also just to appear more, for what will go on to happen, I'm not sure.
So, what do we know about the main suspect of the Idaho murders? And why are people so overwhelmingly convinced that he was responsible? Or perhaps a better question, why are there still some portions of the public that believe his innocence? So we're going to dive into a little bit of background of Brian Christopher Kohberger. Brian was born on the 21st of November, 1994. 1994? Fucking hell.
Looks older.
Yes! That's literally what I was thinking.
Not to be judgmental.
Fucking hell.
Not to be judgmental.
In the community of Albrightsville, which is located around 40 miles south of Scranton, Pennsylvania. Scranton? Come on, with confidence.
Probably.
I want to do the perfect cartwheel.
Brian was the third and final child born to Mary Ann and Michael Kohberger Jr., having 2 older sisters, Amanda and Melissa. The family spent much of Brian's early life in the nearby mountain town of Effort.
Maybe it's really steep and at the top of it. Then the neighbouring village is knackered.
His father worked for many years as a maintenance worker for the Pleasant Valley School District, whilst his mother was a substitute teacher and a classroom assistant for students with special educational needs. The Kohbergers lived a quiet life in a small neighbourhood, raising their 3 children with the hopes of a bright future. At high school, Brian was allegedly bullied by a number of girls who made fun of his weight. He would later lose more than 100 pounds in weight as a result of bullying. 100 pounds in kg?
Ooh. You know it, don't you, off by heart?
Me?
Do you? Oh, no, I thought you did. You were like...
Nah.
It's 45 kilograms.
That's quite a lot.
What is it in stone? What is it in stone, please?
Mate. In stone, it is 7 stone.
Fucking hell.
That's a lot.
Wow.
They would make fun of his appearance and the fact he was seen to be so nervous and awkward around them all the time. It has been reported that they would throw objects at him and call him names. Despite this, and this perhaps feeds into the idea that he was socially awkward, Brian would repeatedly approach the girls that were bullying him and ask them if they wanted to hang out. He would also apparently use this technique with female strangers he'd never met.
It's not a good opening line with strangers, is it?
What, do you want to hang out?
Just straight away, that's brash.
As he grew older, Brian grew tired of being bullied. He started to research boxing and various combat sports in order to defend himself. According to one former friend, instead of being a target, he now became a bully, and generally had a more aggressive attitude towards other people in his teenage years and early 20s. After studying boxing for a few months, he became eager to start fights with anyone in order to practice what he'd learned. As a teenager, Brian wrote online about numerous different mental health challenges he was feeling and facing. He stated that he was depressed, and that he also seemed to experience symptoms consistent with dissociative disorder, minimal remorse, and a lack of emotion.
So if what that friend said is true, like if I was being bullied for years and wanted to learn some self-defense or something like that, I would go and physically learn. I wouldn't study it, in books or online and then look to practice in person like it sounds like Brian has just done. Like, it seems like he read up on it and then was like, right.
I can understand the idea of practicing alone to start off with, because maybe if you're severely self-conscious or you've, that kind of thing. I can imagine people,
But shadowboxing in the...
Shadowboxing, working
shower.
out all that stuff, I can see that. But then, then you get to the stage when you are confident with what you can do, and then you'd find a place to practice with other like-minded people that are doing the same thing.
Yeah, I see that. See that as well.
Though there isn't a huge amount of publicly available information relating to Koberger at the time of recording, what we do know is that he attended Pleasant Valley High School, which he graduated from in 2013. He subsequently enrolled at Monroe Career and Technical Institute in the community of Bartonsville, Pennsylvania, but dropped out just after 1 year. He later went on to enroll at Northampton Community College in the village of Tannersville, also in Pennsylvania, where he obtained an associate degree in psychology in 2018. In 2020, he earned a bachelor's degree from the DeSales University in Allentown. His education at this point also included undergraduate degrees in cloud-based forensics, which is just,
Is
I
that
guess,
like cybercrime? I'm guessing it's
I
not.
imagine so. Yeah,
Online.
It's not going to be
In the cloud.
Yeah, it's
Cloud forensics is a specialized area of digital forensics focused on investigating security incidents, data breaches, and other events in cloud environment. Okay.
It's not just standing out, just shouting like, "Who did it? Who did it? Who was it?" Following on from his graduation, he took on a role as a casual security guard for the Pleasant Valley High School district, which was actually the same district where his father had served as a maintenance worker for many years and his mother had worked briefly as a substitute teacher. Though he did not have any kind of extensive criminal background, he did receive an infraction for driving without a seatbelt in August of 2022. There's also a 2023 article by The Telegraph which details that Brian's own father called the police on him 9 years before the murders took place. This was apparently due to him stealing his sister, Melissa's iPhone, and also stealing an iPhone from someone else at school and paying a friend $20 to collect him and take him to the nearest pawn shop, where he wiped and sold the phone for $200.
Bold, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's really gone full circle from being teased about his weight and bullied by girls to then doing this to people. Real mega bully.
Lost £100 and he gained $200.
Oh, brilliant.
His father confronted him about the incident, and Brian chillingly warned him, "Don't do anything stupid." At the time, he was 19 years old and charged with a misdemeanor theft. He didn't serve for any prison time, and his record was later expunged. That's a good word.
Yeah. Bonsi, can we put that photo up of the body cam of him in the car with his dad, and just the idea of Brian saying to his dad, "Don't do anything stupid." I'm now thinking of that body cam and how his dad seems, just as you said earlier, just a really chill, just easygoing, whereas Brian in that image is just like glaring at the officer. Don't do anything stupid after you've done something stupid. Mad.
Yeah, not taking any responsibility for it, and just not, as I said before, not really knowing the cues to how to behave. According to one friend, he also spoken about prior heroin use and experimentation with various other drugs. In the same Telegraph article, it states that Brian had been to rehab on at least one occasion and that the iPhone theft incidents occurred shortly after his stint in the facility. Together with this, there is limited to no information available regarding Brian's romantic background and whether or not he had held many or any intimate or sexual relationships. Those that knew Brian described him as smart to the point of being highly intelligent and potentially a genius, but they also noted that he showed many signs of being socially awkward. He also had a very limited number of friends and apparently struggled to fit in many different stages in his life.
There are many different articles online that suggest that the Koberger family regularly encountered financial difficulty, or as we've always said, particularly early ICMAP, struggled to make ends meet. Records show that the couple filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy twice, once in 1996 and once again in 2010. And according to these filing documents that were obtained by Heavy.com, in 2010 the couple listed $154,719.11 in assets against $260,000 in unpaid debts. As well as this, the couple were said to have had $398 in a joint checking account and a reported $49.77 in total savings. Despite their financial hardships, Marianne and Michael raised their children to be hardworking and happy individuals, with each of them pursuing their studies and careers relentlessly. Koberger's sister Melissa is a practicing mental health counselor in New Jersey, whilst his other sister Amanda works as a licensed school counselor, having previously worked as an actress. But since this case has happened, or since the allegations against Brian have come out, she's had very limited job offers in that field, and she actually has an IMDb page of her own. Amanda Koberger, she's been in like some straight-to-DVD horror movies from what I could remember.
This case did remind me of Scream quite a lot.
I hear that. Do hear that. In his adolescence, Koberger reportedly became fascinated with and completely immersed in the world of true crime, specifically serial killers. So deep was his fascination that he earned an MA in criminal justice in 2022, and just a few months before the murders, he moved across the country to attend Washington State University in Pullman. He started renting a small apartment in the area as a result, and if I remember rightly, there are interviews with his neighbours that basically say kept himself to himself, never spoke to the guy, was always shut away in his apartment or out in his car. This particular location was within just a few miles and was actually the neighbouring city to Moscow, Idaho. Brian did this in order to earn his PhD and was hoping to eventually become a doctoral student in criminology. Shortly after moving to the area, Brian Googled the term female students at University of Idaho. And many of these results and searches of his internet history brought up images of young women in bikinis, whilst he apparently observed images of numerous female friends of his forthcoming victims. Brian was obsessed with the psychology behind serial killers and spree murderers, always wanting to learn more about the emotional and psychological components of certain famous killers. He at one point specifically wanted to acquire volunteers, like he made a public post at the university to create or take part in a study to research emotions felt before, during and after committing crimes. And yeah, obviously this was a very big kind of, I guess, headline about this case is that it was a criminology student that is alleged to have done this. And people theorize that through his studies, he was wanting to commit the perfect murder. And there's that theory that that is simply what he was trying to do that night, rather than specifically targeting one of the victim. His goal in life when applying to the university was apparently to work with high-profile criminal offenders. And in August of 2022, Brian, who was obsessed with Ted Bundy at this point, downloaded a research paper about how serial killers justify their behaviors.
While studying at Washington State, similar observations were made by colleagues and other students regarding Brian's attitudes and behaviours. He was described as someone who made the following long list of negative attributes: super awkward, made other people feel uncomfortable, offensive, always trying to fit in, and constantly staring at females in the class. Apparently, he was far more animated, upbeat, outgoing, and socially active after the Idaho student murders were committed, but immediately went quiet any time that his classmates brought up the case.
That does kind of tie in with your Facebook guy, Tom.
Yeah.
Mr. Roger, whatever.
Papa
Rogers. So maybe, yeah, when he, in person, he wouldn't say anything and then get out of class, boom, boom, boom. That wouldn't surprise me.
And he's on a high adrenaline rush from everything, and then, but yeah, still being cautious not to be caught out.
Over the course of October of 2022, just a month before the murders, Brian made the following disturbing Google searches: sociopathic traits in college students, and can psychopaths behave pro-socially? He also made the following keyword searches on adult-only websites the same month: forced, passed out, drugged, and sleeping. And the weeks after the murders, he would regularly Google the case, and he would also watch several videos on YouTube and TikTok that were made about the murders.
Again, I understand, the innocent until proven guilty, but I would love to know.
It's not looking good.
People that still believe that he's not linked to this case at all and is innocent or has been framed or any of this stuff. What are your thoughts on these? This internet footprint that he's left behind, and I know that some people will immediately say it's not his. They've planted this information. Da, 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 da.
For someone who's studying cloud forensics,
yeah,
you're really leaving a lot in that cloud.
That is, that is a murky-looking cloud. It's gonna rain.
Storm, bro. June 26, 2023. the Latah County Prosecutor's Office declared their intention to pursue the death penalty in relation to the trial of Brian Kohberger. This was predominantly due to the aggravating factors surrounding the first-degree murder charges. Kohberger was immediately denied bond. James Bond. On December 28, 2023, the Idaho Murder House, 1122 King Road, Moscow, was donated to the university just 3 months after the crimes occurred. The decision was eventually made to fully demolish the property once the investigation and crime scene analysis was concluded. This decision has been met with criticism by conspiracy theorists due to the fact they feel the jury will not be able to be given an authentic perspective of the house and the crime scenes. However, the house was totally dismantled by investigators prior to the decision, with forensic teams removing pieces of walls and flooring. A 4D model of the house was recorded and will be used in the trial. A memorial garden for the 4 victims was subsequently added to the campus of the University of Idaho. I know Ben has said a few times how atypical this house is and how confusing it could be, but I think if you've got a 4D model, or if you've got, like you say, a kind of VR-y kind of experience which you can do, or like a mock-up, I think you can kind of gather it from that. I don't think you gain a great deal by walking around the rooms.
Yeah, I remember when going through the research for this, there is again an entire Reddit thread about why did they do this? The house is the most crucial piece of information they have, but I mean, there's so much that they've already recorded from the house, and by the point that it was the decision was made to demolish it, as Tom said, walls and floors had been removed from the proproperty as part of evidence gathering. So
yeah, I presume they got everything they needed to get right before demolishing.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
It's not like the Bain family where things were still very much up in the air and the house was destroyed. Whereas this is like, they feel like it's all been signed off by the right people and gone, let's demolish it, which I can completely understand. In January 2024, it was revealed that the Kohberger's defense team had been granted access following the request to under seal the findings from the investigative genetic genealogy testing. This revealed that the team using the public genealogy database utilized a touch sample taken from the knife sheath that was abandoned at the crime scene, which initially sparked the inquiry into Kohberger. This will likely come up during the forthcoming trial. October 9th, 2024, after numerous appeals from Kohberger's lawyers, it was confirmed that the trial will be held at a more neutral location of Boise, Idaho. Judge Stephen Hippler will be presiding over the case, and though he has overseen numerous murder cases in his career, he has never imposed the death penalty. Jury selection is currently set for July 30th, 2025, whilst the trial is currently set to start on August 11th of 2025, so not a long way now. In Idaho, a law was recently passed that stated the death penalty is to be serviced by firing squad. Which, cheaper? I guess.
Haven't there been a bunch of questionable lethal injections?
Even there's been lethal injections and injections. The injections
that was
also
very questionable, wasn't it? I'm sure there's been like recent examples of that being not effective and actually
sourcing the chemical or the thing to inject has been proven difficult.
Yeah.
Like it's that. I think that's part of it.
Right.
And as I said, even though it's kind of feels a bit crass to say 5 bullets, like compared to all that, and in America, I think it's fairly easy to source bullets.
Don't they as well? Some of the men will be firing blanks. Is that right? So they're not. They won't.
Don't feel self-conscious about it, Ben. I mean,
no. Well, I'm sure, don't they? In firing squads, it's only actually 2 or 3 of them pulling the. Yeah.
This is why I don't agree with the death penalty. It's like, even that, to me, I know what you're saying, Tom. It's a bit more to the point, but it's still brutal.
By the way, I'm not agreeing with it.
Well, no, yeah.
I'm not saying that I agree with death penalties. I'm just saying that that's probably the reason why firing squad is being brought into it. But it's if it wasn't my daughter murdered, I'd be surprised I didn't know I had a daughter. But I'd also want the person to be rotten in prison for the rest of their life.
Yeah,
it's a deep and vast water, isn't it? The ethics behind
it's
that.
easy for me to say that because I'm just speculating how I'd feel. Obviously, I'm sure. I hope I never know what that feeling is, and you know, I do understand why some people want, an eye for an eye.
Yeah, but I can see both sides for sure, and also the money involved.
If you've got an eye for an eye, you can see around all the sides probably.
But I will say I'd be very surprised if he gets the death sentence based on this judge's track record, and also what's like. I think he'll be life without the possibility. If he's found guilty, which I think he will be, I think it'll be a life sentence without any kind of possibility for release.
Yeah,
I know there'll be a lot of people out there wanting and feeling that the death penalty will be just. But yeah, I'm sure the firing squad is that kind of anonymizes or removes the weight of that action from some of the individuals that we put in the trigger. I'm sure there are blanks or something like that.
Yeah. And there are also very recent claims at the time of recording that Koberger, the accused's mother Marianne, is torpedoing her son's defence by demanding that they go to trial rather than enter a guilty plea. This is because she's adamant that her son will get a not guilty verdict. This is despite the pretty convincing evidence against him. His two older sisters have also allegedly stated and then retracted their beliefs of their younger brother's guilt.
February and March of 2025. Kohlberger's attorneys made multiple attempts to get the death penalty dismissed, arguing that he has autism spectrum disorder, as well as obsessive compulsive disorder, and that executing him would breach the 8th Amendment's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. As of today's date, the death penalty is still very much a possibility, though it appears that O'Brien and his representatives will attempt to deny all of the alleged crimes in order to drag the proceedings out for as long as possible. As recently as the day we are recording, June 27, 2025, Brian Kohlberger's team have been denied their motion to delay the trial due to their proposed theory that 4 other individuals could have been responsible for the murders, with Judge Hippler labelling their claims as entirely irrelevant and wild speculation.
So yeah, by the time this episode goes out, we will be fast approaching the trial. I know there's a Prime documentary coming out on Prime that looks to be a fairly deep dive on the case. But yeah, I mean, so far, that is the information we have around the Idaho quadruple murders. Did Brian Kohlberger do it? I mean, that's a working title. And I know people are going to criticize us for that title, but that is
yes, he did.
Where we're at the time of recording. Yeah, what are our thoughts, Tom? We've put the ground bait in. Dan's thrown some ground bait in. The line is, moving about in the waters slightly. What do we think?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's relatively clear that what we all believe, as we've very much angled this case that way. But even like looking online from things I've seen, there doesn't seem to be a clear other suspect. There's too many things linking him, too many weird behaviours. Obviously DNA, I think you can't really argue against, really, unless people go, he planted it. But there's too many contributing factors to him being. I think we haven't mentioned it enough, really. I do think he fits into the category around the incelly kind of
definitely does, yeah.
way. There's a lot of links even with Sorority House and Elliot Rodger. So yeah, I think yeah. From what I believe, what we all believe is, we believe he is guilty. I don't think we believe the death penalty would be the way that we would hope this ends. But it's a very cruel, unnecessary case. A lot of things with people being there when they won't usually be there that night as well, which has led to further devastation with further people losing their lives. But it's just a very sad case and an absolutely unwarranted case, like all the cases we cover, really. But
see, I can agree with some people saying it's not open and shut. I don't think it's exactly open and shut, but I think like you mentioned, Tom, there is overwhelming evidence to suggest it's Brian. And also another note about just general, I think, the internet, like we mentioned the sleuths earlier, I think it does encourage conspiracies, doesn't it? And yeah. I don't know if that's just a general way of life at the moment, because everything's a conspiracy.
I also think people will, to try and get to C, they'll make B work.
Yeah.
They'll manipulate B to get to C, and they'll probably leave some detail. Oh, it doesn't matter. Those details doesn't matter. Well, that links to that. So, and even with police do that, don't they? Police want to find the person that's done, obviously committed this murder, but also to kind of make the public feel safe. And sometimes they will jump on someone quickly and go, oh, no, this is the person. But yeah, as I said, even, I know it sounds very just like minor, but even, Papa Roger, yeah, I don't know, all the things point that way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd be very interested to see what you guys think. If there's any theories you've heard that we haven't mentioned, obviously, we have to condense this down into an episode, so we can't go through every single theory, but anything you guys have heard would be very interested to hear. Anything that you guys think.
Definitely. Can I just add, and I think, I'm sorry if this puts some people off me, but I feel like I'm agnostic when it comes to the death penalty. Sometimes there've been cases we've covered where and I know that's such a weak place to stand, which probably won't surprise people. Sometimes there have been cases we've covered where I feel like that is the only possible consequence to some people's actions, but you can't pick and choose them, can you? I mean, well, you can with certain trials, and I don't know. It's a very murky waters, but I don't think it will go there with this particular case. And I agree with Dan. I can see, like, the demolishing of the house, for example, we've very quickly all been like, oh, that makes sense. But I can see why conspiracy theorists will go, no. They're doing that for a reason. They're covering something up. Or, as Tom said, the DNA has been planted. I mean, a tiny bit of aftermath for you. There's huge online communities. I mean, not huge, but given the scope of this case, there are quite large communities in the believers of Brian Kohberger's innocence, and I'm sure there'll be some of them that have watched or at least started this episode today. So basically, there are theories online that suggest that both Xana's mother and Maddie's stepmother have had raised concerns around two students that were members of the Aryan Brotherhood regarding the trafficking and distributing of drugs in the university. And that it apparently was the Aryan Brotherhood that, were responsible for these murders. There is, as I said, a subreddit which is r/Justice for Kohberger, and all of their stances seem to be pointing to cover up and planting of evidence and planting of DNA, which, I mean, you get them with most cases, don't you? Yeah. But this could be the incel community or people that are infatuated by him. Other people criticize Dylan. Dylan, the surviving housemate that looked through her door and gave the statement of a male stranger around 5 feet, 10 inches tall, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. They say, well, she'd been drinking. She'd been out all night. She was still drunk. How could she give an accurate testimony? So I'm sure we'll see some of this in his defense at trial. I mean, I've been battered before, and I could tell you what someone looks like if I met them. Yeah. But it's just like, yeah, I just they'll think, pick that apart at trial, won't they? Yeah, no, I get that. But it seems to be grasping at straws, I think, a lot of the but yeah, no, I get it. And like, when people get something in their head, it's hard to change that, and other things just go on to kind of cement what they think and why things are happening. Yeah, definitely. And as I've mentioned throughout the episode, there is a virtual tour of the property, which makes it feel, for me, incredibly cramped, incredibly narrow, lots of wooden flooring, hard surfaces, narrow hallways and stairways. It also provides audio commentary at certain points of interests. If you boys click that and have a quick look, it really brings to life for me the environment of the crime scene. You can turn from daytime to nighttime. It has written testimony of the investigators that were first to arrive at the scene. So yeah, I mean, for the people watching this on YouTube, and for the audio folks, I implore you to come and have a little look. We'll pop the link in our Facebook group, which is I Could Murder a Podcast listeners and true crime discussion group. But you can go through the whole house, look in every room, go through all of the different stories. And for me, again, this screams that this individual was familiar with the layout, because to have gone through step by step from these different bedrooms, to have done it without creating noise and concern from other housemates, it's just, I can't completely work that one out, which suggests as well that Kohberger may have been inside the house previously. I've also got the listing of the property as well when it was let out to students, and it again brings to life the environment. Another bit of aftermath for you. There's, again, this is taken from some portions of Reddit, but there was an individual called Hudson Lindo. So when we mentioned that 7 years ago there was a murder, this was Hudson Lindo. And an individual called David Loach was a huge person of interest for that particular case, and apparently is still on, in the area at that particular time, and was very familiar with the fraternity houses. Again, we'll pop some links onto the Facebook group. There's so much here to kind of show. Obviously, we've all given our opinions, which we are. Am I right in thinking we're all of the belief that he is guilty and responsible for this crime? Dan's not 100%.
Oh, 99.
Beyond reasonable doubt is what we need, and I think I'm there. Yeah. So there you go. But we'll also pop, some other links into the Facebook group there for you to have a look. It's always interesting to see people that do believe in someone that appears to be highly guilty. It's interesting to always see how they try to defend them, and what, as Tom said, what to get from A to C, they usually skip B. Yeah, for sure. And guys, a little bit of light relief at the end of the episode. We have had lots of requests for this, a bit of a throwback to old ICMAP. A lot of times in our live streams, people have said that they'd love to see this come back. So we brought it back. We have brought back
lookalikes. Yes, so we are back, and what we're going to do with this as well, just to kind of add another element to it, we will, after this episode's gone out, we'll put on our stories each of our lookalikes, and you guys can have a little vote.
Oh no!
I think I usually get absolute pelters for mine and Ben, so I never think look like it. Always get, yeah, Ben's exactly right. He looks exactly like that. So that's not. So I'm sure that will happen here. But anyway, Ben, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so as I said to you boys, I've got two. Both of them are for Brian Koberger. The obvious one for me was straight away Dennis Reynolds from It's Always Sunny.
I see that now.
So I've just got that on the next page there for you. Or the page after that.
Oh, that's good.
Dennis Reynolds.
That's good.
That was the one I thought was quite obvious. I probably could pick a better picture for Dennis. And then my other one, which is a bit of a niche one, is it looks like Pau Torres, the footballer.
The eyes do a bit.
It's the eyes and the bushy eyebrows.
Who?
Pau Torres. He plays for my football team. It's a niche one, as I said.
All right, then.
But if he's on the next page there, look, if you have a little look.
I think Dan might have done the reverse.
He's got a motorbike.
Good guy.
Make him want to have a look more.
Good guy.
Cool.
Mine is, it's, if you go down another page, guys, it's Bobby Fischer, the chess master.
That is fantastic.
There's a great documentary, The World versus Bobby Fischer, if you haven't seen it. Chess documentary. It's very interesting. It basically, just there's something in my head, in the back of it, I was like, what is it this? And then I searched it.
That's good.
Him, so.
That is really good, and that documentary is amazing.
Very interesting about chess masters, and in general, it's very interesting as a field of human.
So this might annoy both of you, and I haven't actually chosen one, but maybe you can help. I started with Greg James.
I weirdly,
it's not quite
had
right.
a bit of that, yeah.
And then I went to a young John Turturro.
John Turturro.
Again, it's not great, I'll admit. Perhaps he could play him.
Oh, okay, I see the Turturro.
I can't spell the Turturro.
T-U-R.
Transplant.
It's he's the Spanish bowler in Big Lebowski.
Oh yeah, Jesus.
And then I ended up with Jake Gyllenhaal. So they're all a bit kind of basic, not quite there.
Well, Dan, you're gonna have to make a decision before we post it, so people can vote on it. But yeah, I don't know out of those three. Jake Gyllenhaal could play him as well.
Could play him, yeah.
I do like your chess man. That's a good shout.
Chess guy's
That's a very good shout.
I think Paul Torres is good. Paul Torres. But yes, let us know what you think, and if you have any lookalikes, do let us know. We will be using this as a feature, and don't worry, Spooky Corner will return as well. Lots of great stories coming in from you guys about your weird experiences, and it's very fascinating to read, so that will return. Very excited to be back. So many big cases for us to cover, and very excited to share it with you guys. And thank you so much for listening or watching.
Yeah, as Tom said, very happy to be back. Big case we've had to condense, which will be, there are some big hitters coming throughout the rest of this series, which we're really excited to share with you. If you just can't wait until next week's episode, which, by the way, there will be a cryptic clue for. It's been recommissioned, shockingly recommissioned. But we have got weekly minisodes still coming out every single week over on our website, icmap.co.uk. In video and audio form, you can access them via the website itself or via Apple Podcasts or via Spotify, and we do case requests on there. We have at the time of recording around 215 minisodes, so why not have a little look over there? We have a lovely welcoming community in the cult as well, so why not become a cult member? And
we also do monthly live streams as well with a small audience who can answer your questions. You guys can get involved, but yeah, the community is great. Lots of people happy in the Discord, talking every day, discussing ideas, discussing just general life as well. It's lovely to see a lot of friendships being built there. And
marriages.
There's been a marriage, yeah.
There's been a marriage.
Has it happened yet?
There's been an engagement.
And people have even found love in the cult, which is incredible. So yeah, love to hear it.
So, somehow it's still here.
Benjamin Carter's cryptic clues. Everyone gather round for some clues that can be quite cryptic, but he's going to give them to you anyway. Hope you can figure them out.
Welcome back. Flying through the series already. Episode 3. It sounds like I might need help getting up that hill. It sounds like I might need help getting up that hill. It's going to really annoy people. But we're back,
It's not
baby.
your worst. It's not your worst. I don't know if that's just because I'm
Look at
flying
Dan's
high.
face. Look at Dan's face.
Flying high, being back with a new series. I don't know if I'm letting you off, but
Thank you. Probably are. By episode 6, you're going to be fuming.
yeah, we headbutt on the wall.
She went up the hill, but didn't come back.
Kind of, you're working with it.
She went
Jack
up
and
the
Jill.
hill. She met with a producer and didn't come back.
Pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have used producer, couldn't I? But
Well, there you go. There's 3 for you there. If you can't figure that out, then I don't know what to do for you. All right? Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll be back again next week with a brand new case. Let us know if you can figure out that little clue. But like we always say,
we say this all the time.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Well, unless it's, dearie me, stealing iPhones off people willy-nilly. And
don't mansplain.
Yeah, that's awful, isn't
it?
No.
Gosh. Don't. You know.
Don't eat curly fries daily.
Yeah, Jack in the Box.
Or weekly, Tom.
No, weekly's all right. Treat. Cheat day.
Cheat days.
Cheat week.
Cheat life. Anyway, see you later, guys. Do a bit.
Bye-bye.
I hereby sentence Mr. Koberger as follows. On count 1, burglary, 10 years fixed, 0 years indeterminate. I also impose a fine of $50,000. Count 2, first-degree murder of Madison Mogan. I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 3, for first-degree murder of Kaylee Gonsalves, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the victim of the family, or to the family of the victim, pardon me. On count 4, for the first-degree murder of Xana Kernodle, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 5, for the first-degree murder of Ethan Chapin, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. The sentences on counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 shall run consecutively to one another. Restitution will be left open for 60 days. Defendant will be required to submit a DNA sample and a right thumb print impression to the Department of Corrections and comply with the DNA Database Act. I remand the defendant to the custody of the Idaho State Board of Corrections for to be imprisoned in an appropriate facility and execution of the sentence where he will remain until he dies.